She woke up slowly, not because she was rested, but because her body refused to move. The bed beneath her was too soft, too wide, smelling of expensive perfume and unfamiliar skin. Tall curtains swayed gently as morning light poured in, painting the walls in gold and amber. Crystal chandeliers reflected the sun in tiny pixelated flares, dancing like spirits across the ceiling. This was not her room. Her heart began to race. She turned her head and saw a man standing near the window, calm, composed, already dressed. He didn't look surprised to see her awake. He checked his watch, picked up his phone, and placed a thick envelope neatly on the table. "You were amazing," he said, casually, without emotion. Before she could ask who he was, before she could even sit up, he walked out. The door clicked shut. Her phone vibrated. Once. Twice. Then endlessly. Unknown numbers. That morning, Vivian's life split in two. The Borrowed Charm, a story by Estebabe. Vivian had always lived quietly. She was the kind of woman people noticed without knowing why. Her beauty wasn't dramatic or loud. It was soft, almost shy, the kind that lingered in the mind long after she passed by. She spoke gently, avoided crowds, and preferred corners where she could observe rather than perform. Her best friend, Angela, was her opposite in every way. Angela thrived in attention. Her laughter filled rooms. Her confidence bent conversations toward her. She dressed boldly, spoke freely, and never apologized for being seen. They had been friends for years, drawn together by contrast. Where Vivian retreated, Angela advanced. Where Vivian doubted, Angela decided. When the invitation arrived for an exclusive high-profile night event, Angela was thrilled. Rich guests, wealthy men, bright lights, power in the air. Vivian hesitated, but agreed. As she dressed that evening, carefully choosing a simple but elegant gown, her heart skipped. Her mascara, still at home. Angela didn't hesitate. She reached into her designer purse and handed over a sleek black tube, smooth and cold to the touch. "Use mine," she said quickly. "It's very good." Vivian hesitated only briefly before applying it. The lashes darkened instantly, longer, thicker, unnaturally perfect. Angela watched her reflection in the mirror without speaking. The venue looked like a palace built for desire. Golden lights washed over polished floors. Music flowed softly, blending traditional rhythms with modern elegance. Men in tailored suits stood beside women wrapped in silk and jewels. The air smelled of perfume, wealth, and ambition. The moment Vivian stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. Eyes turned. Not casually, but deliberately. Men paused mid-sentence. Women glanced, then looked again. Security followed her movement with alert interest. Vivian felt it, a strange pull, like invisible strings tightening around her. Compliments came too easily. Voices lowered when they spoke to her. Smiles lingered longer than comfort allowed. She stayed close to Angela, unsettled. Angela looked pleased. When they finally left and Vivian returned home, she washed her face carefully, removing the mascara, watching dark water swirl down the sink. She believed the night was over. She slept deeply. Too deeply. The next morning, Vivian woke up slowly, dragged out of sleep by a dull ache that spread through her body like heavy rain soaking into dry earth. Her eyes opened to a ceiling she had never seen before. Smooth, white, bordered with soft golden light. For a few seconds she remained still, trying to understand where she was. The bed beneath her was wide and cool, the sheets far too soft to belong to her modest apartment. The room smelled expensive, a faint mix of cologne, fresh linen, and polished wood. Her heart began to beat faster. She sat up, and the movement made her dizzy. Her head throbbed as though she had stayed awake all night, yet she remembered nothing. No laughter, no conversation, no journey here. Her body, however, carried a deep exhaustion, the kind that comes from being used without rest. Then she noticed him. A man stood near the tall glass window, the city stretched beneath him like a kingdom he owned. He was calm, unhurried, fully dressed, adjusting his cufflinks as though this was an ordinary morning. He did not look at her with curiosity or desire, only quiet satisfaction. Vivian opened her mouth to speak. No words came out. The man picked up an envelope from the table and placed it neatly beside her phone. "You were wonderful," his voice steady and detached. Before she could ask his name, before she could ask why she was here, he walked out. The door closed softly behind him. The silence was loud. Vivian's hands shook as she reached for her phone. It vibrated instantly. Unknown number. Then another. Messages appeared on her screen, familiar in tone, unfamiliar in memory. "Did you get home safely? I'll book the same place next time. I can't stop thinking about last night." Her breath caught. She rushed through the room, grabbing her dress, her shoes, her bag. Everything was there, arranged neatly, respectfully, as if someone had cared for her while she slept. That terrified her most. She left the hotel in a daze, the city too bright, too alive. By the time she reached home, her legs felt weak. She locked the door behind her and leaned against it, sliding slowly to the floor. This had not been a dream. Something had happened, and she had been absent from her own. Vivian told herself it would never happen again. That first morning she bathed for a long time, scrubbing her skin as if water could wash away confusion. She prayed, she cried, she promised herself she would stay awake, alert, in control. But night came, and sleep claimed her like a thief who knew her schedule. The next morning, she woke up in another room, another hotel, another unfamiliar ceiling. Her stomach dropped before she even sat up. This time she didn't scream. She already knew what she would find. Another man, different face, same confidence. Another envelope, another quiet departure, another phone buzzing with messages that spoke of shared moments she could not remember. Fear settled deep in her chest. Days passed and the pattern grew stronger. At first, it was one man a day, one location, one envelope, one set of messages. Vivian tried to trace her steps. She checked her call logs, her location history, her calendar. The gaps were terrifying. Hours missing, movements recorded that she did not recall making. Soon, drivers began arriving. Black cars waiting downstairs, men addressing her by name, hotel staff greeting her like a regular guest. She began to recognize the smell of luxury lobbies, the quiet hum of elevators, the way hotel rooms felt impersonal, staged, waiting. Her body weakened. Her eyes grew heavy even during the day. Food lost its taste. Her reflection looked unfamiliar. Beautiful, yes, but hollow, as though something inside her was slowly being drained. Then it increased. 2 men in one day. One in the morning, one before nightfall. Her phone rang endlessly. If she ignored one call, another came. Messages stacked on messages, confident and demanding, as though she owed something she never agreed to give. Sleep was no longer rest. Sleep was a passage. Each time she closed her eyes, she felt herself slipping, handing herself over to something she could not see or fight. Vivian stopped asking why. She only focused on surviving each morning. Moving from one hotel to another, one quiet escape to the next, she felt like a guest in her own body, present only when it was too late. And deep inside, she knew. Whatever had started this was no longer slowing down. It was accelerating. What began as a pattern soon became a storm. Vivian's phone no longer rested. It trembled constantly, vibrating against tables, beds, handbags, and car seats like a living thing. Unknown numbers filled her screen from morning till night. If she silenced one call, 3 more followed. Messages came in confident tones, written as though agreements had already been made. "You're late. I've arranged everything. Same place as last time." At first, it had been 1 man a day. Then 2. Soon the number climbed without warning. Some days it was 5 men, different voices, different expectations, different destinations. Yet all of them spoke to her as if she belonged to them. Cars arrived in rotation, drivers opening doors without asking questions, already knowing her name. Vivian's days blurred into motion. Hotel lobbies merged into one endless corridor of marble floors and soft music. Elevators lifted her silently into the sky again and again. Suites smelled the same: clean, expensive, empty. Money appeared everywhere. Envelopes tucked neatly beside beds, transfers confirmed on her phone, receipts bearing her name. She never spent it. The wealth felt cursed, heavy, accusing, untouched. Her body began to fail her. Her legs ached constantly. Her eyes burned from lack of true rest. She could no longer tell whether it was morning or night without checking the clock. Food lost meaning. Sleep no longer refreshed. It drained her further. She cried in bathrooms with gold taps. She pressed her forehead against cold mirrors. She whispered prayers she barely remembered learning. Luxury had turned into a cage. And worst of all, she no longer felt surprised when she woke up somewhere unfamiliar. Fear had given way to numbness. When Vivian finally realized she could not survive this alone, she began to seek help, desperately, blindly, everywhere. She went first to prayer houses, crowded halls filled with voices crying out to heaven. She knelt on cold floors while hands pressed against her head, pastors shouting commands into the air. She fasted until her body shook, until her vision blurred. Nothing changed. She visited spiritualists next, women with knowing eyes, men who burned incense and read symbols in smoke. They circled her, muttered warnings, shook their heads. "This thing is deep," one said. "Someone opened a door for you," said another. But no one could close it. She tried silence. She tried isolation. She tried staying awake all night, walking, pacing, drinking coffee until her heart raced. Sleep always won. And every time it did, it took her somewhere else. By day, Vivian still looked normal. She smiled when spoken to. She dressed carefully. She answered questions vaguely. No one could see the war happening at night. She began to feel split in two, the woman who existed in daylight and the one who vanished when she slept. She stopped making plans. She stopped imagining a future. Survival became her only goal. It was her mother who noticed first. Not the money, not the clothes, but the eyes. During a phone call, her mother paused. "Vivian," she said slowly, "you don't sound like yourself." Vivian tried to laugh it off, but her voice trembled. Days later, her mother went to see her pastor, an elderly man known for listening more than speaking. After a long silence, he told her only one thing: "Bring your daughter to me." When her mother called, her voice was firm, afraid but steady. "I've spoken to someone. He needs to see you immediately." Vivian didn't argue. She arrived at the church early the next morning. It was quiet, modest, nothing like the luxury she had been drowning in. Wooden benches, open windows, the smell of old books and incense. The pastor studied her face carefully. Her eyes, her lashes, her posture. He didn't rush. Finally he spoke. "Did you borrow anything that enhances beauty?" he asked gently. Vivian froze. The room felt smaller. The mascara. Her chest tightened as the memory surfaced. Angela's hand, the sleek black tube, the casual smile. Tears filled her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. The pastor nodded slowly. "That," he said, "is where this began." And for the first time since the nightmare started, Vivian felt something new stir inside her. Hope.
mixed with fear of the truth yet to come.
The room was quiet after Vivian admitted it. Yes, she had borrowed something. The pastor leaned back in his chair, his fingers resting lightly on a worn leather Bible. He closed his eyes for a moment, as though listening to something beyond the walls of the small church. Outside, the wind stirred the trees, and sunlight filtered through the open windows, landing softly on the wooden floor. "That mascara," he said slowly, "was never meant for beauty." Vivian's stomach tightened. He explained carefully, choosing each word with caution. Angela had not bought it from a shop. She had not received it as a gift. She had gone to a chief priest, one known for working with charms tied to desire, attraction, and wealth. The mascara was prepared as a binding object, meant to draw powerful men, influence decisions, and turn attention into money. "But it only works," the pastor continued, "when the spirit agrees, even unknowingly." Angela had used it carefully, sparingly. She knew when to stop. Vivian had not. Vivian had borrowed it without protection, without knowledge, without intention. "And because your spirit is gentle," the pastor said, looking directly into her eyes, "it did not fight back, it opened." Vivian's felt tears roll down her cheeks. Everything made sense now. The exhaustion, the missing nights, the men who spoke to her like she had promised herself to them, the money she never touched. "It was feeding," the pastor said quietly, "not on your body, but on your presence." Vivian's hands trembled. "So, am I finished?" she whispered. The pastor shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "but you are standing at the edge." He told her the truth plainly. If nothing was done, the charm would continue to multiply. The attention would increase, the exhaustion would deepen. Not because Vivian wanted it, but because the object had tasted her spirit and did not want to let go. He stood up and walked toward her, placing his hand gently on her head. "You are not evil," he said firmly. "You are not weak." He paused. "But you must choose to stop carrying what was never yours." Vivian closed her eyes. For the first time in months, she felt fully awake. Not in a hotel room, not surrounded by luxury, not running from confusion, but seated in truth. Outside, the church bell rang softly, and as Vivian inhaled deeply, she understood something clearly at last. The nights had not stolen her life, they had only revealed where it began to slip away. Moral: sometimes what appears as a gift can be a trap, and what seems small can change the course of your life. Beauty without wisdom is a road that leads you to strangers' doors, and only the truth can open the path back to yourself.
Please like, comment, and share.